Pastor Ricky Temple. Thank you for being with us today. We are glad you're with us. This is our prosperity team meeting, and this is something new that I'm doing, something that I have not done before, but it's designed to help me have a conversation with you about resources and money and prospering in your life. Sometimes in church you only have 5 minutes to say what you need to say, and that can become a daunting thing. That can be become something that frustrates the pastor, frustrates the people. And so what I'm going to do is find a way to create a conversation. Now, what I'm going to work on is the in-person part of that conversation. I believe the best time to catch people is sometimes when they're already there. So we're going to figure out a way on maybe Sundays. On the Sundays we gather, we'll figure all that out where we can get you to come out and be a part of our in-person fellowship. Sometimes we'll do it on Wednesday night. We'll figure it out too, but that's not for today. Today we're going to take you down the road in the Word of God for a minute. I'm not going to take much of your time, but I want to share a brief word with you that will help you understand the power of prosperity. I want to talk about why prosperity is important and how it can help your life. And again, if you're just tuning in and you are totally new, don't know what's happening, this is a stream we decided to make available to everybody. So normally there are about 218 or 20 or so of you who are part of the prosperity team. You signed up and said, I want to learn about prosperity. I want to learn how to advance myself financially. And so I put together a team of people that I can have that conversation with. So if you're watching this and you're saying, I don't know what this is, it's new. And so as I said a minute ago when my mic was quiet and you couldn't hear me, there will be a cue card up in just a second that will show to give you an opportunity to join the prosperity team. You can say, I want to be a part of this. I want to understand how this all works, and we will be glad to share that with you, and you can be a part of that team. So make sure you get your phone out, get your cue card out, and say, hey, I want to be a part of this team. All right? Let's pray. Father, I thank you and praise you for the opportunity to be together. We thank you for those who are streaming in. We thank you for the hand of God upon our church and upon all who are watching all around the world. Give them grace as we have this conversation, and we thank you for it in Jesus' name. Amen. Well, let me begin by saying there are 4 goals in my conversation today. 4 things I want to talk about. 4 simple principles I want to share. One of them is I want to talk about what prosperity is. And in our past, we've had 3 meetings so far. If you're not, again, a part of the prosperity team, you don't know about those meetings, but we've had 4 meetings before. And in those conversations, I wanted to make sure I was clear about what prosperity was and what it was not. This is not just about money, even though we're going to talk a lot about money over the next several weeks, months. It's not just about advancing so you're rich, even though it's not bad to have money and to have wealth. I want to talk to you about the foundational way you have to think. Now, here's my personal belief. Church is sometimes the worst place to have that conversation, because churches tend to have this real hesitant attitude towards money and finance that really hinders their ability to be effective. They struggle with anything that has to do with advancing you financially. There's a struggle with money, success, and like I said, most of the time in church, when you talk about money, you're talking about it from the perspective of, I want you to give something. That's not what this conversation is about. I am not just going to talk to you about giving money, even though I believe that giving money is important. Tithing is important. But I don't know that that's the big conversation. 75% of people do not tithe. Only about 10 to 20, 25% tithe. And in evangelical circles, it's even smaller than that. It's like 15 or so percent. People don't really honor God in tithing. But again, this is not about just that. I want to reshape how you view money, how you view prosperity, the whole conversation. This is not just about budgeting. It's not just about putting money aside. This is not just about living on some tight, restricted income. It's more than that. So let me, if I can, begin by listing the 4 things we're going to talk about today. And then I'm going to go back and review what I call the goals for the prosperity team. And I named it that because that's the best name I can come up with. I wanted to call it the Prosperity Club, but I thought that would not go over well. So it's a team of people, a group of people who are committed to advancing and prospering. So first of all, we're going to talk about embracing the prosperity challenge. I'm going to give you a verse for it and show you that the Bible teaches that you should embrace the goal of prospering. Secondly, we want to talk about the vision for the team, the vision for what we want to accomplish. And thirdly, we'll talk about requirements for prosperity. Prosperity doesn't just happen in a person's life. There are certain things you have to do. And if you don't do them, you can't prosper at that level. And so some people around you may do better than you, but that's because they invest. That's because they sow their time. And so if you don't invest, then you won't do as well as somebody next to you. And I really believe that comparisons are really good. I do. I went to the gym the other day, and I feel good. I worked out 5 days this week. I feel really good about myself, right? So I went to the gym. I was in a hotel, and I worked out in this hotel every day. It was really great. I was there for like 4 days. I worked out every day. And one day in particular, I went in there, and there was a lady working out. And she was, she was strong. And I just moved. I just felt like, well, you know what? This is bad for my ego. This is a bad moment. This girl was lifting some weights, boy. I mean, she was just going. I thought, well, I'm gonna move way on the other side of the gym so I can feel good about me. And I got, I got my, 2-3 pounds, and she rolling over there with her 5,000. I just said, okay, we're not gonna feel bad. But then in my mind, here's what I thought. What's really great is sometimes you need to be around somebody that's doing better than you. Because what that does is it elevates your vision. It makes you go, hey, everybody's not struggling to pay their bills. Everybody's not struggling. Some people really do prosper. So what I want to know is how. And there was some exercises she did. I'm going to try some of those when she's not around. But I thought, that was pretty good. So anyway, we're going to talk about requirements. And then we're going to talk about, and I'm going to go back to a sermon I did, which is on May the 5th. So I want you to go back May 5th, 2024, and there's a sermon I did called Big Thinking for Big Results, okay? Sometimes what I'll do is I'll take a sermon, and I'll aim the entire sermon in a different direction. That's what I'm going to do today. I want to take you to that sermon, but I want to show you it from a prosperity standpoint. I want you to look at it and say, okay, if we were just talking about money, if we were just talking about finances, how would we see this? How would we look at this? Well, I'm going to show you that in the context of that verse. So that's going to be a fun thing to do. Now, if you would just look with me, if you would please, and I bought this great new device, which I just love, but it's so fancy, I can't work it. Jesus, help me. Here we go. Here are the objectives of our conversation today. 4 things that we're going to talk about. We're committed to learning how to prosper. That's one of our main objectives. We want to show you how to prosper, how to advance yourself, how to advance your resources, how to make a difference in your families, and how to make a difference around those around you. So I want to commit to you to learning how to prosper personally. I want you to advance yourself. I want you to learn how to make a difference in the families in the world around you. And so think of it this way. This is about me advancing myself and those around me. That's probably the simplest way to say it. I want to advance myself. Because you can't really help the world around you if you're broke. If you're struggling, if you're having a hard time, there's no way that you're going to be able to advance anybody else. Secondly, we're going to talk about the subject of money beyond just getting paid. It's got to get past that. When you get past the point of it's all about a salary raise or a bonus, prospering is way more than that. Thirdly, we're going to talk about getting beyond just buying things. Prosperity is more than just stuff. It's more than just having money. It's more than just having resources. We can also slay the dragon of need. I want to get past that whole issue. I need something. You always need something. I want you to get past that, where you don't always need something. What would it be like to get up in the morning and you don't need a car, a house, another job, another shirt, another blouse? What would it be like to get past that point, where my thoughts are not about what I want to get? You want to get all that out of your mind. I really believe that that's a great place to graduate to. I now don't think about another car, or I'm not thinking about getting married, or I'm not thinking about anything. I'm just thinking about life, my life. Imagine that for just a minute. To me, that's prosperity, when you get to that place. Because for some people, every day is about gaining some economic advantage. What do you want to do if you get $1 million? All that kind of stuff. What if you said, if I got $1 million, I don't want to do anything. I don't have anything that I want to go buy today. I don't have any place I want to go necessarily. I'm just happy with me. So we'll talk about that. That's my goal. We want to create a bibliography for you, a list of books over time that will become a resource for you. They call that in academia the annotated bibliography, where when you write dissertations and things like that, they made you put together a list of books. And this became the source you use to do your research. So if you want to learn about, in my case, it was a research on burnout, there were like 150 books or something like that. Believe me, it was. And you then use those books to build your argument. What is your theological conviction? And what is it based on? What books do you use to find out what and how things work? It's something about learning how to do that. When a person is clear in their minds about how things work, they're clear about why they believe what they believe. And that's why the book we're reading, which we'll talk about a little bit later on, is really important, because if you have a biblical view of money, and it's sound theology, there's no confusion in your mind, it really helps you. And so I'm going to ask Brian to put that up for me in just a minute so you can see that. It's a powerful, simple, but yet profound tool when you understand what the Word of God says about your money. So we'll look at that. A biblical look at money. I think her name is Lamb. It's a really powerful, simple way to analyze how you compare what you think and what the Bible thinks. And we'll do that too. So let me begin in our text. This is Deuteronomy chapter 8, verse 10. This is the main launching place for our conversation. This is in the book of Deuteronomy chapter 8, verse 10. He says, when you have eaten and are satisfied, praise the Lord your God for the good land he has given you. Be careful that you do not forget the Lord your God, failing to observe his commands, his laws, and his decrees that I'm giving you this day. Otherwise, when you eat and are satisfied, when you build fine homes and settle down, and when your herds and flocks grow large, and your silver and your gold increase, and all you have is multiplied, and you've got your degrees, and you've got all the things you want. You now have a master's degree, a doctorate degree. You have an apartment and a house and a couple of rental properties. That when you get to that place, that's not in the text, by the way, verse 14, that your heart will become proud, and you forget the Lord your God, who brought you out of the land of Egypt, out of the land of slavery. He led you through the vast and dreadful wilderness, the thirsty and waterless land, with its venomous snakes and scorpions. He brought you water out of the rock. Now, I want you to know, this is all a conversation about when Israel gets to a place of prosperity. He didn't want them to change. He didn't want them to forget, because prosperity can do that for you. If you're not careful, when you get there, you feel like you're there, especially when you get around people who are not there yet. And so verse 16 says, he gave you manna to eat in the wilderness, something your ancestors had never known, to humble and test you, so that in the end it might go well with you. You may say to yourself, my power, this is the danger, my power, my education, my wisdom, my strength, my business savvy, and all of that in the works of my hands have produced this wealth for me. The temptation in prosperity is you think you did it all. You're a self-made millionaire. I don't like the term. I built this church by myself. I'm the Pastor Ricky guy. I came in here, and it was, 70 people, and 2,500 now, 3,000 people. So I start thinking that I did it all. Prosperity can make you crazy if you're not careful. Verse 18, but this is the part I want you to remember. This is a big verse. This is the big verse. You ready? Here we go. But remember, your God, the Lord your God, it is he who gives you the ability to produce wealth. That's the key verse I want you to focus on. God gives you the ability. Whether you produce it or not, it's up to you. But it is God. He said, when you get to the promised land and you are successful, one thing I don't want you to do is forget who gave you this. But I want you to understand how it works. I'm giving you the ability. I'm not doing it for you. You will not, this church will never have more money, never build anything else. It will never do anything else if it doesn't want to. If I don't have a vision for myself, a physical prosperity vision for me, that I want my body, which has been aching today, which has been kind of funny. I was laughing at that. I said, foot, back, everything been kind of aching a little bit. I don't know how I scraped my arm. I scraped my arm. I said, what? I'm hurting myself. Don't even know I did it. All kind of things going on. But I have to have a vision And that's why every morning this week for 4 days, I'm going to say it over and over again. I worked out 5 days a week. I felt really great. And normally 2-3 days, but today was a strong week. But that was because I said, I don't want this to be my outcome. I choose on my own to make sure that I invest an hour, hour and a half in this. And that's what makes the difference. And so prosperity is tied to you doing it. Let me read it again. He says, remember the Lord your God is he who gives you the ability to produce wealth. It doesn't just come, it's produced. And so confirm his covenant, which he swore to his ancestors in that day. Now, if you ever forget the Lord your God, and you follow other gods and worship and bow down to them, I testify against you today that you will surely be destroyed. I just think that if you make food a god, if you make status a god, I'm big on Hollywood and celebrity. I think it's great. If you ever know some of those people that work hard to get there, it's great. I love them. I mean, I love seeing them up close because all that television stuff is just television. But boy, when they work hard, I celebrate with them. They make a lot of money. Some of them not. Most of them don't make a lot of money. But what's interesting is when you see people invest their time, no matter what industry it is, it's a joy. God celebrates your success when you go and produce it. He told Adam and Eve, till the garden. It's your job. I'm not going to take care of it for you. If this garden is kept up and mended, tended, you're going to do it. I'm not doing it for you. And the same thing is true with your life. What's interesting to me is when somebody doesn't do what they're supposed to do, right? And their life is not where it's supposed to be. And then they come to you and say, save me. And I'm thinking, well, I didn't create that. I'm not responsible for all of that. I can't be responsible for all of that. You are responsible for that. If they can embrace that, a lot of their lives can change. If I'm honest, I look back at my life and I think, well, you could have done this years ago. No, I didn't have that mindset. I didn't have that discipline. I wasn't at that level of commitment. I could never have produced what I produce today 30, 40 years ago. I've learned, I've improved. And so I want you to, first of all, be honest with yourself and say, okay, if I don't have the level of prosperity that I want to have, or that I thought I should have had by now, could it be that I just didn't have the tools? But now I can have them. Because what I hear in my head most of the time, whenever I want to look back and say woulda, coulda, shoulda, why don't you do it now? If you say, you should have built a business, well, build one now. What are you waiting on now? You're going to feel guilty about what you didn't do because you didn't know what you now know. Well, you know it now, so do it now. So pause for a minute and ask yourself, why am I not doing it now? For the same reason you didn't do it before, because you didn't try. You must produce your own wealth. If you can get that in your mind and stop thinking you can pray to God and say, God, give it to me and it's going to happen. That's not how it works. There's certain things that you have to do, and there's certain things that God put in place, and if you do them, then it'll happen. Which brings me to the point of the requirements for prosperity. You ready? There are three things specifically. 3 things that are important. And these are drawn from Proverbs. 3 simple things. Number 1, prosperity requires God's presence. Prosperity requires God's presence. Commit to the Lord whatever you do, and he will establish your plans. I believe that involving God in your plans is important. I think the mistake we make is we exclude him. And that's not just tithing, by the way. That's not just honoring God in tithing. Even though I believe that Malachi 3 and 10 talk about the importance of that. But I don't know that that's a fair argument to say that you're not going to prosper. I know people who, if I'm really honest, the Bible says in Malachi 3 and 10 that bring all the tithes, that there may be meat in my house, and I'll pour out a blessing on you that you will not have room enough to receive. I believe that there's a direct link to me honoring God and my prosperity. I believe in that. But I don't think it's like a magic trick. I don't think I can just do that and not work. You with me? I don't think I can just do that. I can give in church or give my tithe, but not be industrious. I can't just give my tithe and be healthy. I can't just give it's not like that. It's not a magic trick. That is part of the formula, but that's not the whole formula. And so you can be a person who's very faithful in giving and be very bad at managing money and have trouble all your life. So I think it's important to understand that. But prosperity requires God's presence. If I commit to the Lord whatever I do, and I say, Father, I come to you with this issue. I bring to you this dream. I acknowledge you in all my ways, and I believe that you'll bless my path. So the first thing is prosperity requires God's presence. Number two, prosperity requires listening. Proverbs chapter 16, verse 20. Whoever gives heed to instruction prospers. Whoever gives heed to instruction prospers. And blessed is the one who trusts in the Lord. Again, God's involved in this, but I've got to be a listener. You will not prosper beyond your ability to hear. And a lot of times the problem is we don't have people around us who can tell us. We don't have people around us who can teach us. We are, if we're not careful, anti-instruction. That's why raising money in church to me on a Sunday morning is just not the way to do it. It's not enough time. You can't say enough. There's got to be a pathway, and that's what I want to create in our church long term. A pathway to have a 30-minute discussion, a 30, 45-hour discussion about resources and money and finances that allows you to really get people to hear. Whoever gives heed to instruction, but there's got to be instruction. So think about it this way. When were you ever taught about money? Now, I've been a little bit of college, and undergrad, grad, and doctoral program, no classes on money. None. No classes on prosperity. Now, some of you have had other degrees in here, I can tell. Am I right? Unless you were a math major or a person who majors in accounting like you did, most of the time there's no instruction. And even when you learn about accounting, it's not the same as managing day-to-day money and finances. So a lot of pastors, when they do stumble into a success, they are confused as to what to do. They don't know how to read a balance sheet, a profit, loss, cash, none of that. They have no clue. 90% of businesses, 90% of businesses make less than $1 million a year. Only 10% of businesses, small businesses, get above $1 million. 4% of churches get above $1 million. 4%. So I want you to think about that for a minute. And to show you how limiting that is, that means if you have $1 million, sounds like a lot of money, right? But let me hire you. Let me just hire 10 of you and pay you what you need to get paid? $20,000? Okay, $30,000. $40,000. Y'all some greedy people. $50,000? Jesus. $70,000. Okay, I'm getting there. I'm in the hunt. We're doing hunt. Okay, do you want benefits too? Yes. Benefits. Okay, benefits. That's the problem. That's more money. Okay. So let's round it up to $100,000 per person that it might cost me. $70,000 to $100,000. It don't take you long to get to $1 million. Now, I haven't paid for anything. Lights, gas, water, building, office space, insurance, nothing else. That's just you. See, that's how it can be easily 50% to 60% of your money just on the people you hire. It's just very easy. So I'm saying if only 4% of churches get beyond $1 million, no wonder they can't do everything you want them to do. You want them to fix this. How come they didn't fix up the bathroom? Why they didn't paint the wall? Well, because they can't afford to. Because 75% of their money goes to two things: housing themselves and staffing. They haven't even bought one bubble gum for the kids in children's church. That's why they don't have any money. So I'm saying that understand the power of lack and how it limits your life. And if you don't instruct people about this, how do you ever improve that? How do you get them? Here's what will happen. You will never get past it. And you will always live in this limited place. And I'm not saying if you're under $1 million, you're just in an awful bad place. I'm not saying that. That's a blessing. All I'm saying is understand the truth about prosperity so you understand, okay, these are the limits and the boundaries. All you got to do is lead a nonprofit, right? And you see it every day. The boundaries you run into are just a business, not even a nonprofit. So prosperity requires God's presence. Prosperity requires listening. Prosperity, but you got to have something to listen to. Okay. Thirdly, prosperity requires time to think. Time to think. Proverbs 21:5. The plans of the diligent lead to profit, as surely as haste leads to poverty. One more time. The plans of the diligent lead to profit, prosperity. And surely as haste, rushing, leads to poverty. Proverbs 21:5. Now I want you to hear this. Most of us don't have time to think. You are not going to prosper if you do not have time to think. You have to have time to think. You have to have time to step back and say, okay, we need to accomplish these goals in our family. What's it going to take to get there? And then we have to have this next thing I want to talk about, which I mentioned in our sermon on May the 5th. So if you're watching May 5th, 2025, I did a series, and I just concluded. It's called Big Thinking for Big Results, right? And I tagged on the back of this one, and prosperity. So big thinking for big results and prosperity. So what I do sometimes is I'll take a sermon, right, that I did, and I'll manize it, and I'll teach it just to the men from a man perspective. Then I'll womanize it, teach it from a woman's perspective. And for you, I'm teaching from a prosperity perspective. Same scriptures, same text, same sermon. So go get the sermon notes if you want from May 5th, okay? You know, I'll put all the sermon notes online, and you can follow me along. But I want you to listen carefully to what I said in that sermon and see how it applies. As long as you ignore what's going on in your thought life, then your unhealthy thoughts will continue to erode your quality of life, your relationships, and your faith. As long as you keep thinking the way you think, that's the bottom line of what he said, and this is from our book of the month we read by Craig Rochelle. If a person keeps thinking the same way, they're going to have the same results. Nothing's going to change. You can pray, you can talk to God, you can say what you want, but nothing's going to change. And so I came up with 4 things, 4 big thoughts, 4 big ways of thinking that could change your results. And I call it the PTSD thinking, if you remember, right? First thing you're going to have is a plan. So I want you to think about this for a minute. What is your prosperity plan? What is your prosperity plan? Now, I'm going to make a statement. I don't mean any harm when I say it, okay? This is what I tell pastors. Your staff does not normally have a plan. They have an assignment. Your members don't have a plan most of the time. They have an assignment to participate. So they want to come to church, they want to sing, they want to have a good time, and they want you to preach a good word, and they want to go home. They don't plan on cleaning the building. They don't plan on going. They can complain about the bathrooms, but they never clean them. They don't plan to do that. They want the grass cut when they drive up so their feet don't get messed up. They want all the ant beds gone. That's what they want. They are not going to sit back and say, what can we do strategically to make this a better church or a better whatever? What's interesting is most families live that way. The mother and the father, most of the time, have a plan, hopefully. But if they're not careful, they just kind of exist with the laundry, kind of exist with, you know. When I got up this morning, I have this routine I follow, which I just love. I have a night routine, I have a morning routine. And one of my morning routines is to wash clothes. I wash every day. It's me. Forget it. I just believe washing every day keeps the devil away. It's just this thing that you just don't have this pile, this evil. You know what I'm saying? This evil pile. And I took it over years ago, and I kind of, I've been the clothes washing dude, right? And I have 2 washers and 2 dryers. I have a wonderful laundry room because I saw what it did to my wife. It's torture. It's horrible. So, having said that, so I follow my little routine. I go through my little thing, but it's part of my plan. I tell them, come on, do it every day. Do it every day. Okay, because if you don't do this, maybe every other day if you're not careful, right? I had a couple of weeks ago, I had some challenge. It was every other day. But I'm into it because if I don't do it, what happens is it piles up, right? And I just think there's something about picking up behind yourself that's part of the plan. So that I don't have to have housekeepers who come, but, I want to be trashy, And I found that it's not that bad. As a matter of fact, the housekeeper came the other day and they said, you guys, it's not that bad. You guys really pick up behind yourself. And I thought, there you go. That's what I want. Because the plan is for it to never be when people stop by like what happened yesterday, I got to apologize. I apologize. They go, oh, I'm sorry. Oh, boy, I don't know what happened here. See, if that's going to always happen unless I come with a plan. So here's the question. What is your plan? What is your prosperity plan? If you don't have a plan, you're not going to get far. And so that's what the whole sermon was about. Then I said you got to have a team. PTSD. You got to have a team. You got to have a group of people that help you with certain aspects. I realized that I cannot keep it at the level I want, so that's why I hired and put in my budget. I plan to have somebody come and help me so that every now and then they come in and help me keep it clean. The same thing with my lawn. I cannot. I used to cut my grass. It's not possible these days. And so I just have a team of people who help me with that. I have teams for everything. With my doctoral program I just finished, I had a team. I introduced you to them. I knew that my schedule was so stacked, there's no way I would succeed without a team. But then the third thing you got to have is self-confidence. I'm telling you, what hurts you the most is you start believing in yourself. You can't put a plan together. You can't build a team because you don't trust yourself. You're always insecure about you. I want to do a whole sermon series on this because I am plagued by it. You're a pastor, you're in front of people. You know, how do I look? Does this fit well? Stop it. At some point, you have to just, I believe in me. I believe in myself. And then lastly, you got to have deadlines. You got to say, this is when I'm doing it. This is when I'm going to do it. You will never prosper if you don't have deadlines. So you got to have a plan, a team, self-confidence, and a deadline. Those are the things that are important. So I'm going to stop here for a second. I've talked for a while. And I'm going to say that in our next gathering, I'm going to send you some emails. And all of you that are not on the prosperity team, you say, I don't know what this is, but I want to be a part of it. Then what you do is that the cue card is going to be up, and you can get your phone out, and you can join. Because most of our conversations will be just with the team. I'm not going to do it like today. Everybody gets to see it. But that's not going to be the case going forward. So if you want to join the 220 or people who've done it, then you need to sign up and say, okay, we're going to get these private conversations, some online, some in person, and some just where we get together and just hash out. We're going to have guest speakers, people come in and talk about retirement, talk about money, talk about finances, talk about all kinds of things that will help you build businesses. This is where I'm going to have the conversation. So I want to say in church, you'll hear me do my little 5-minute spiel, but then I'll say if you want to hear more, join the prosperity team. Sometimes I want to do it. I don't know how. I wish I could do it right after church. I wish I could say we're going to have a 30-minute prosperity team meeting afterward, our prayer meeting or whatever. I'll figure out how we can do that because we got to make sure we do it right. So if you heard me say amen, amen. Good. Now, I want to entertain questions, both in the building and online. If you've got questions about anything I said today about prosperity, maybe you can say, these are the things I want to talk about, some things that maybe that are really important to me that you said today, Pastor. And so now it's question time. So you get to tell me your question. I got Miss Bishop here. She's a wonderful question answer person. If I can answer it, you'll call her. But if you have a question, type it in the chat, and then we can see it on the screen. Hey, Keith, how are you, T? All right, who's on? I think I saw Jeffrey's on there. All the rest of you, thank you for watching. Yolanda was on there. Some other folks, thank you for tuning in. We're going to take about another 30 minutes. But in the room here, if you've got questions, I'm going to take the microphone, and I want you to do me a favor, ask me a question. Now, I'm going to draft somebody. My brother, I'm going to draft you. You are the microphone man. Yes, you are. And you can also ask a question if you desire. Grab the mic. He's a big money guy. He likes to talk about money and finance. As a matter of fact, that's what he does for a living. So, matter of fact, I'm going to draft you to ask me a question. Ask me a question. Tell me your name and ask a question.
Hello, everyone. Good morning. My name is Manning Bennett. And I guess my question for you would be, I think the biggest thing, just from my experience professionally, dealing with different family members and things like that, the biggest thing and challenge I think that people deal with is mindset when it comes to prosperity, and especially if you haven't had it in the past with family, it can be kind of hard to envision yourself at a specific level. So how do you get to a level of belief in yourself that you can accomplish certain things to be able to produce prosperity?
It's a great question. I think, and it's my honest opinion, we've done a bad job in church with that issue because we confuse you. On one side, we say the love of money is the root of all evil. On the other side, we tell you to give. We never tell you to save. We never tell you to invest in yourself. Almost every conversation in church about money is giving them money. And so I'm thinking about how many people do you hang around who only ask you for money? Name some best friends that are really close to you, and all they do is ask for money. Aren't those the people you want to take on vacation, right? Those are the people you want to hang with and be around. No, when you see them, you go, oh, my God, money. Your brain instantly goes, they need something. And they call, you think they need something. So I think that church isn't a good place sometimes to do that. We have to work on that. I think you have to find people who reinforce your faith. They reinforce your confidence. They reinforce that you have a right to have certain things. So when you get something, they're not putting you down for it. Right. They're not saying, well, oh my God, look what he drives. They're happy for you. Get around those kind of people. And be honest about the people who have jealousy and comparison issues, where they have to always be bigger and better than you. Right. Those people you just lovingly do the best you can with. Sometimes it's a family member, but you have to really separate yourself in your heart and mind from that. I understand that if I sow more than you, I will have more than you. If I listen, like the text we read, if I do the things this text says, my life's going to be better. Right. I'm not bragging about what I do with the clothes. I'm trying to tell you my plan. But some people, you can't tell them your plan. And you can't tell them your harvest. And you just accept that. When I'm with you, this is a non-harvest talking conversation. Right. So if you ask me what I make in salary, I say, why do you want to know that? Wow, what would you pay me? I always spin it around. Because to me, that's a person that's looking to compare in some way. Right. And I'm not against comparison. But I understand that if I'm going to be healthy in my head, I might have to elevate my vision toward prosperity and hope they catch on and get around people who elevate me. I love to tell women this. Don't marry a guy that dumbs you down. Marry a guy that smarts you up. Yeah. That teaches you it's okay. The same thing is true in life. Pastors go through this. Leaders go through this. Business people go through this. So that's what I would say. If you want to do better and think better and feel better, you're not going to hardly find it, I lovingly say this gracefully, in church, because we just have one message. Give us some money. Right. That's the only thing we say. I say that needs to be elevated because I have to care about you prospering in your personal life. I want to see you get better jobs. I want to see you advance. I have staff people work for me, and they're on their own businesses now. That's what I want. I want to be a source that encourages people's prosperity because I want you to encourage it in my life. Did it help a little bit?
It did a lot. Thank you.
Okay. Anybody else have a question in here? Something about prosperity online, something that you want to understand about this whole conversation before we get done today. Anybody have a question? Or something I said that you thought was interesting? Raise your hand if you have a thought. Did I say anything that you liked? You thought, that was nice? Raise your hand. Anybody? Anybody at all? Type it in the line if you're right there on the chat. Hey, Jackie, how are you? Miss Jackie Rawls, I see you out there. Thank you for watching. I appreciate it. Anybody at all? What was interesting that I said today? It's all okay. Think about it. There you go, back there. Take your time. Type it in the chat. We're going to be here for another 20 minutes or so. Go ahead. Yes.
Good morning. I'm Devin Patterson.
Hey, Devin.
The PTSD, I really like that. I do recruiting now for like collegiate students and stuff like that. And we try to teach them to have a plan because if you don't have a plan of any sort in life, then you just kind of blow through things. Right. But even when stuff happens, when you have a plan, you can resort back to the plan and try to reorganize. So I think the PTSD concept is very important with the team and having self-confidence. Because when you have a plan, it builds your team, builds your self-confidence, and that helps you be accountable with a deadline in the long run. Because people just go through the curriculum and don't have a deadline. That's when people be in school for 8 years in the undergrad, and they're like, well, what was the deadline? So I really like that point.
Good. I think it's hard, at least for me, the isolation is hard for me. I'm a social person, but success requires isolation, a lot of it. And the teams are small. They're never large. There's always a few people. Jesus changed the world with 12 people, but he really interacted with 3, Peter, James, and John. You can't hardly name anything the other guys said or did. Very small. In the book of Acts, there are 2 people that are highlighted, Peter and Paul. Those 2 are the 2 main characters. You can literally call it the stories of Peter and Paul. You know, you have other people who come in here and there. You're never going to be successful in a crowd. You're never going to prosper. Prosperity is about crowd for you, you're going to have a small team, and you're going to be the only one planning most of the time. That's going to require self-confidence because you're saying against yourself all the time. You know, I believe you can have a small team like Jesus had, and then once you set the deadlines, those deadlines move. You know, I thought certain things would come. I had plans when I first came to the church. I thought we're going to double in size. You know, we had like 45 coming, something like that, right? It went down. There's 70 members, 45 attending, and it went down. The first summer, it was amazing. I felt like, what in the world? There wasn't a foundation. I had to build a foundation. I came in December. I couldn't get it to grow by June, but I thought I could. It took a year, 2 years of faithfully working, a plan. I went every day to the church. I preached and subsidized my income, got a little job for a minute. I did what I could, but I worked a consistent plan. And part of my plan was teaching the word. Teaching the word, book by book, verse by verse, word by word, consistently. And then answering people, dealing with people. It was part of the plan. And I'm telling you, it was isolating. I felt it. I went to the church by myself. I sat there for hours by myself. Matter of fact, one of the jokes that one of our members tells, I used to come to eat lunch with them. I said, I got to get back. My lunchtime's over. And they go, ain't nobody there. Ain't nobody. It's just you. And I was suited up all the way. I'd always be suited up. For years, my members didn't know I had jeans. I was suited up every day, suit and tie every day, because I'm going someplace. I'm determined. I'm going to be somebody. I'm going to get this done. I'm going to teach the word. That required me to be okay with being alone by myself. Then accept the small team that I got, self-confident, and set deadlines. And when the deadlines didn't quite make it, I adjusted the deadline, but I still always had a deadline and a target. The problem is when the deadline is passed, the 3rd of June, you give up. No, how about the 10th of June? And then analyze why you couldn't get there. And so it's just a really great problem. I love that comment. That's great. We got something online that said, you stated, do what you love to, I can't read that. Somebody read that for me. What does it say? Do what you know to do now. Can grab the mic right there. Grab that mic for me. And then you can read it, Miss. Can you read it, Miss Bishop? Let Bishop read that. What does that say?
You stated,
yes,
do what you know to do now.
Okay.
What if you feel that the season for that dream has passed?
Get a new dream. I think the season for the way we ran church is past. So now we're operating in a new dream. We'll try it out and see how it works. I don't think that Glenn, my friend up there in North Carolina, I don't think that everything is going to stay the same. I think you want it to be the same. You want it to be, and it's so uncomfortable. Oh my God, when a season's over with, I see this when people retire. I see this a lot. At 66, because that's when people start asking you about retirement, right? And I see a lot of times they don't have a vision past that day. But I think one of the great things is to anticipate the changes and plan for them and make steps, and I'm working on that now, things that I want to put in place. But it's a little bit disarming. So I understand your question, Glenn. I understand that there are times you don't know what to do now. You know, something's passed. I see this in so many ways. I see this in when you lose a spouse. That season is over. So now you're single again and you didn't want to be single. I see it when you get fired from a job or an industry changes and now you don't know what to do with yourself. But I see those as opportunities, launching pads to new places. Because sometimes we get so fixated. What will I be if I'm not Pastor Rick? Wow. I mean, just think about it for a second. I wake up one morning. This is how it is for some guys. You wake up the next morning, and you are not in charge of that church. You ride by. You don't even have a key to get in. That day will come. Don't even have a key. You have to ring the bell or say, hey, anybody in there? And then you may not even know the new person in charge. Your family's parking spot. I had this happen one time. A church, a guy was pastor of church, And when the pastor died, his wife and children drove up to the church, and their parking space was now removed. They didn't know who they were. And the kids said this, "Who are we now?" That's what they said. We were the first family. Are we now the last family? We don't have a place to park. Yeah, you do, where everybody else parks. But they weren't prepared for that. What should have happened was a conversation, but it was awkward. They didn't mean any harm. They loved them. There's no bad intent. But that was a powerful moment for me. So that's a great question, Glenn. I say get a new dream, new plan. Somebody else have a question for me? A question?
I have
Yes.
a question.
Go for it.
Could you elaborate on perhaps a broader definition of prosperity? I know you alluded to it at the beginning in terms of how it looks, but for the context of this group, do you look at prosperity as a certain income level, a certain lifestyle? I mean, can you have a hope and a dream can you feel like you're prosperous if you're making $28,000 now? You know.
Great question. That's a super great question. I would say this. Prosperity is normally defined by the person. There are some people that if they make 6 figures, they're there for life. 50,000, they're there for, really, that's it. They're not trying to ever get beyond that. They're going to live on 25,000. So to them, they're prosperous. There's some people, I worked for a guy when I was in college. He was a broker. And he used to tell me to go to the bank and get him some weekend money. And he would write me a personal check for $20,000. And I would go to the bank and I would get $20,000 cash and take it back to him. And this is in 1981. Now you can imagine how much money that is back in 1981, 1880. No, 1979, 80, 1980, 79, 80, up in there. And to him, that's prosperity. He lost everything. And now, believe it or not, you know what he does? He helps the homeless. And now his definition of prosperity is totally different. So I think it changes. For me, it's not a dollar amount. For me, it's a quality of life. Jesus said in John 10:10, I came to give you life and give you life more abundantly. So I believe that prosperity is more about the quality of my existence, my relationships, my friendships. Why I like this church. I like the church because of the way it makes me feel. I don't feel jammed here. I don't feel exhausted. I don't feel like I'm overstacked. I feel helped. I feel like I got a team. I feel like, I feel great about it. And so when I come in here, I don't feel bad. I feel prosperous. So it's not just a dollar amount, but the dollars make a difference in certain situations. So I couldn't do certain things if I didn't have the dollars. I like being in the fight. We got a camp coming up, kids for camp, the kids camp, and it starts Monday. And I just love the fact that we can spend $45,000 or so on this. Is it 44,000? 45? Tell me in a minute. But I love that. I love that you can't do that if you don't have the dollar amount. You can feel really good about kids. I love children. You can feel prosperous around kids, but you can't do anything for them. I like the fact that we can do things. So I sponsored 2 kids, $150 each. I sponsored 2 kids. That's my gift. I'll probably sponsor another 2 kids. I'll see. What is it? 43,000. So, but $17,000 of that we have to sponsor as a church because we can't raise the level of last year we had sponsored 19,000. At least I'm going the right way. I'm going down. But so you want to camp, right? You want to feel good about the kids. You want to feel good. And I feel prosperous offering a camp. I feel good about that, but the dollars make a difference. If I didn't have the dollars, I couldn't subsidize it, and the kids wouldn't have a camp, and we couldn't do it. That's true for a lot of things. That's true for a lot of nonprofit issues. That's for a lot of schools. The school I graduated from was a relatively small school, and what makes the school survive, Life Pacific University, is because of the grants that they have and the sponsors, because it's twice the tuition for one student. So prosperity to me is not just about the dollars. It's about a quality of life, but the dollars do make a difference.
So, in terms of your plan, in terms of how your journey for prosperity, we're assuming you prosperous, you're teaching us, but what are some basic foundational nuts and bolts kind of thing that you implemented that gave you, help you to move forward in reaching a certain dollar amount or a certain quality of life?
I think it's in the product. I think that just like in a restaurant, if the food is good, people will come and buy it. They'll come and participate with the restaurant. If the food is not good, my goal was to make sure that I focused on one thing. I used to call it frying chicken. I only teach the word. The Bible says that a Levite, I use that as my model. The Levites were told, you have no inheritance in the land. I am your inheritance.
And I'm specifically saying when you get your check for your $1,500 every 2 weeks, what are some basic foundational things that you've done that has helped you manage that $1,500 till the next 2 weeks you get another $1,500?
I like that $1,500 number. There you go.
Well, I mean,
it's just making up a number, I know. But the point is, what I do is I first of all, I make sure that I make enough. I have my first goal, to answer the first part of your question, was I want to make sure that I have something that's worth $1,500. I have to be worth it. I have to be, and then I have to be willing to improve it. And then if I'm worth it and I improve it, then I have to manage it. That's the part you're in now, where I look at it and say, okay, if I have $1,500, what do I believe is the smartest way to use that? In my world, tithing is first. I take $150 off the top. Then I say, okay, saving is next. And after saving, then I try to say living is after that. So that means I have to be honest about my living process to make sure that it's beneath what I take in. And there's no prosperity if you spend all your money. There is no advancement. You have to get honest and say, this is what I can do. I do believe in long-term investments. I like nice cars, for example. You ready? I like nice cars. I really do. If you go outside, you can see it. I like nice cars. But the key for me is that has to be a long-term investment. I keep them for 17 years. Diane's car is 17 years old. My car I drive, my other sedan is 8 years old. I keep them for a long time. I manage them with that in mind, so that I think Diane's car costs me $21 a day now to drive it. When you look at what I spent for it, what it is over time, it is now about that. You go rent a car for that much, that nice. So there's a plan, there's a strategy. There is what I live by percentages a lot. So I'll say I save this percentage and that percentage. I'm really aware, both even in the church, of what percentage we're spending, because that's how you can really measure yourself. So that $1,500, so if I say I got $1,500 extra dollars, I even have a plan for that. So that plan is, okay, now this is $1,500 I didn't plan for. I automatically know I'm going to save a certain percentage of that. And if I don't have I love the statement a friend of mine said years ago, a guy I heard say, he said, money has to have a mission or it gets lost. So if I get an extra $1,000 or $1,500, if I don't have a purpose for it, it's saved. I don't just go and do things with it. But to give you an example, somebody gave me, this is fun, you'll love this. This is an example. This is a new iPad. It's really sweet. It's really great. I have a big one. If you've seen me preach, it's a pretty big one, right? And I like it, but I don't always like carrying it up here, and I don't always like having it. And I used to have a smaller one, but it's slow now. Technology's changed. So some people gave me some birthday money, just gift money, and I saved it. And when I got to a certain dollar amount, I then took all that money and I invested it in this, so that I could have another device that would be smaller and more mobile, so when I'm traveling, I don't have to carry the bigger one with me. Now, so that's what I mean by that's the extra money. Set it aside for a specific purpose. I target my money. That's why I love that statement. He said money has to have a mission. So somebody gave me an extra $1,000. I put it aside, and then when okay, now I can buy the device. That make sense? Mm-hmm. Okay, good. All right, I'll take a couple more. Anybody else have a question for me? Anybody online? You can type in one. I love that. Yolanda, look, Yolanda, I love that. Blastic, Broke, lazy, afraid, slow, distracted, or ignorant, or carnal. That's a series I did years ago. That's one of Yolanda's favorite series. She's always talking about it. Blastic is a great series. That's right. Can't be broke, can't be lazy, can't be afraid, can't be slow, can't be ignorant, can't be distracted, and I cannot be carnal. Boy, that's great. Take me back in time. Great sermon. Anybody else have a question for me? Did you learn something today? Was it not, did you have one? No?
Does Gina have a question? Oh,
No?
okay.
Okay.
No, I was going to say some of the literature, the expert financial individuals, they talk a lot about or reference sometimes about the pros and cons of a new car. I know you just got a new car, so I know you're not opposed to new cars, but, you know, certified pre-owned, used car versus new car, and I don't particularly like the term, but, you know, start a house, you know, I'm in a house, you start, non-start.
Okay.
You know, those kinds of things. Could you speak to some of those basic, fundamental kind of things? Because sometimes the prosperity journey can seem like, my fundamental belief is I like to live my life as I go, and I don't want to have to wait till I'm whatever, always to be able to just enjoy. I come to give you life now and have an experience of abundance as you go along. So how have you managed to live as you go and work towards your prosperity?
There are a couple of principles I fundamentally believe in regarding money. One is people get in trouble because of cars they shouldn't buy, houses, those expensive. Those are two big things that can get you in trouble. And then sometimes now, because of their academic investments, which are not always wise, because you're getting that extra degree, but it's not going to pay you anything, and you're already drowning in debt. Maybe you should pause for a minute. Let's make some money, pay this debt down, and not go get the next degree. Unless you know, you can I hate to say throw the dice, but you can gamble that, you know, if I get the doctorate degree, then I'm really going to be, but now you're already $120,000 in debt, you're going to be $200,000, $300,000, and you can't make the payments you already have. So that may not be a good time. If you have a car that runs and you don't have a real reason to get another car, that there's no real, you may want one, but you don't have the margin to prepay it. You only have the margin to pay it, and it's going to be a 6-year run. I personally don't want anything that long. So for me, my timetables is 2 to 3 years, 24 to 36 months. If I can't do it within that time frame, then I'm not going to do it. I don't pay cash for a car because when I drive off the lot, I'm going to lose. This is my personal view. I lose 10% on the way out the door. And that's how you go out, drive off the lot, have a wreck, and all of a sudden you are now upside down on your loan. So I have my own little plan for me. My name is Ricky, for me, okay? So my view is long-term. I'm a long-term investor. I believe in dollar cost averaging, save a little bit, save a little bit. Diane's really good at that. Save a little bit over time. I believe the power of being happy, though, is important. So, for example, I believe that sometimes if I have the margin, which I had, and if I can prepay, which I can, and I love it, which I do, even though this car is sickening because it's too smart and talks to me too much and gets on my nerves, but I like the car a lot. So my point is, I believe that there's a happy place where if I can make it happen for myself, I can take a trip and stay in a suite because I can afford the extra $500 because I feel good about it and I want to enjoy this, and it's not going to hurt anything. It's not going to mess up any of my margins or my savings margins, and I can pay cash, then it's okay. I think that's the key. The key is, how much am I committing to tying up the future? I keep mine short. I'm really big on short. Short. I don't want long debt if I can avoid it. So I don't know if I'm answering your question. Did I get you in the hunt a little bit? Okay, good. You want to give me a final question and thought about that, my friend?
I guess I don't really have a question. I just really want to make a comment about going back to the PTSD and specifically the team and how important it is, especially as you continue to grow and prosper, having a team of people around you that can just instruct you, give you guidance. And for you, I guess I do have a question. Okay. So for you, when was like the turning point in whether your journey, your career, when you really started to value and see the importance of having a team that can guide you I guess, in a financial way,
Yes.
in that way. So
when I think for me, I have always been open to advice. I've never been a closed, don't talk to me person.
okay,
My mom helped me with that because she was very, very adamant about you listening. And so input was always a part of my life. I think what deepened it was the potential failure. When I saw myself make mistakes because I didn't have the right advisors around me. And so when you go through a tight time and when you get out of it, you say, you know what, next time I'm going to seek better help. I'm going to try to find better friends that can support me, and it helped me. Now I'm totally committed to it. I believe in accountants. I believe in lawyers. I believe in advisors. I believe in editors. I believe in all that. And I get edited every week. All my sermons are reviewed. All my stuff is reviewed, almost everything. Because I really believe in letting people talk to me. So I've seen the success in that too, and that's helped me. I've seen that I've done better. Now let me see. I've got a few questions online. Can you?
You have a question from T. Tom that says, can you create a list of recommended books for the Prosperity Team?
I can. If you go to rickytemple.com and you click on Read with the Pastor, you'll see a list of books that are there. The book that we're reading now is called Biblical Wealth. Thank you. Bring it all the way up, Ms. Bishop. Appreciate it. Biblical Wealth and Prosperity. That's the book we're reading right now. Biblical Wealth and Prosperity. We have some in the bookstore too, by the way, if you're here. Biblical Wealth and Prosperity by P.B. Lamb. It's a great book, and she just takes you through some basics of what the Bible says about wealth and prosperity. I used to read all of Larry Burkett's books, I read a bunch of books on finances. What's the one we used to use, the class we used to have here? It's called, what's his name? You know his name? Come on. The class we had. Dave Ramsey. Yeah, we did. I've read all of Dave Ramsey's books. That's a great resource. He has a great concepts. You can read his books, but right now we're reading this one. So if you want to get a copy of it, that's what you should get. All right? All right, then I think that's it. I think we've covered a lot. I don't see anybody else. That's all the questions. If you have a question we didn't answer, you can email me at pastor@overcomingbyfaith.org. That's pastor@overcomingbyfaith.org. So I'm going to sign out to those of you online. Thank you for being with me today. Let's pray. Father, bless those who watch today from home and those who watch on demand. May the grace of God be with them. We thank you for the opportunity to share, and we look forward to our next gathering in Jesus' name. Everybody say amen. What we're going to do is we'll send you an email. If you sign up, let me put up one more time. If you want to be a part of this team, want to be a part of the Prosperity Team, right there, I'm going to leave it up on the screen for you. We're going to zone out of here, but we're going to let you get your phone, and you can become a part of this team, and you can say, I want to be a part of that, and we'd love to have you join the team and talk more about finances and money. Send your questions to pastor@overcomingbyfaith.org. That's pastor@overcomingbyfaith.org. Thank you, Ms. Chappell. I thank you for being with us today. Monique, hey, good to see you folks. Blessings to all of you. Have a great day. Bye, T. God bless y'all. Take care. Bye-bye.